Welcome to Beyond Borders, the Immigration Evaluation Podcast. Whether you're just starting to explore how to add immigration evaluations to your practice, or you've been conducting evaluations for years, this is the place for you. I'm Dr. Mariella Shibley, and I can't wait to share today's episode with you. Today, I'd like to talk about a quiet crisis that's happening all around us. A crisis that's defined not by a single event, but by a constant gnawing fear. We often associate trauma with what happened after the fact, after the car crash, after the war, after the assault. But what if trauma doesn't come after? What if it builds before anything even happens, in the silence, in the waiting, in the dread? What if fear itself is the trauma? For thousands of families across the United States, especially in immigrant communities, this is not a thought experiment. It's life. Parents live in a constant state of alert, making contingency plans with their kids in case they don't come home one day. Children who are U.S. citizens, they are terrified that perhaps they come home from school one day and their parents are not there. And this is a constant fear. The fear doesn't let up. It follows them to school, to the grocery store, to doctor's appointments. This isn't just anxiety. It's trauma happening in real time. So let me share a story that still sits with me. A woman I see at the community clinic asked if we could switch our sessions to phone calls instead of meeting in person. And when I asked her why, she got really quiet and then shared that she hadn't left her house in over a month, not even to go to the store, not even to take a walk. She is terrified that if she steps outside, ICE might be there. That if she stopped or even seen, that she could be taken and deported away from her children. And if that happens, then who's going to care for the children? Who's going to pick them up from school? Who's going to explain to them why their mother never came home? So she lives in this constant state of hypervigilance that keeps snowballing. Every knock at the door sends her heart racing. Every siren in the distance, she feels that pang. And now the fear has completely confined her. She's essentially living under self-imposed house arrest, not because she's done anything wrong, but because she's doing everything she can to protect her family. And this is what trauma looks like before anything even happens. This is what fear does when it's sustained, unchecked, and systemic. And this is just one story. Sustained fear like this isn't just damaging, it's abusive. We don't often name it that way, but we should. When fear is used even indirectly as a tool of control or punishment, it becomes a form of psychological violence. These policies, these threats of raids and mass deportations aren't abstract. They cause real harm to real people. It affects U.S. citizens, lawful residents, children, teachers, employers, healthcare providers. No one is untouched by this web of fear. It isolates, it destabilizes, and it chips away at our collective sense of security. This kind of psychological harm isn't just easily undone. Children who grow up in fear often carry that trauma into adulthood. I can speak to that myself, growing up in Argentina during the military coup. Parents who live in hypervigilance struggle with chronic stress, which takes a toll on their physical health. Communities that exist under siege become disconnected, suspicious, and afraid to seek help even when they need it most. Fear should never be a policy tool. And yet, here we are. If you're looking to add a high-impact, high-income service to your practice, I've got something for you. Head to the link in the description box to check out my expert training in immigration evaluations, a comprehensive program designed to help you confidently conduct immigration evaluations, connect with attorneys, and build a sustainable practice. Now let's get back to the show. So where do we go from here? What does it mean to respond to this fear? There's a concept that in psychology that feels especially relevant, and that is witnessing. To witness someone's pain is to truly see it, to hold space for it, to let it matter. Witnessing can be either passive, like listening, validating, honoring someone's experience, but it can also be active. The scholar Kathy Weingarten described witnessing as existing on a spectrum, where one can be an aware or unaware witness and either empowered or disempowered. So in some cases, people witness suffering without truly seeing it, without really understanding its depth. They know it's there, but they don't quite grasp it. But there's also another kind of witnessing, and one that is active and engaged. For those of us in mental health, one powerful way to be an active witness is through conducting immigration evaluations. These aren't just documents. They're a way of saying, I see your fear. I believe your story. I will use my voice to help tell it. By documenting psychological hardship, we give weight to experiences that might otherwise be dismissed or overlooked. We help ensure that trauma is not invisible in a courtroom. And in doing so, we move from passive empathy to active impact. Active witnessing is more than just acknowledging suffering. It's about using our positions, our skills, our resources to make a tangible difference. For mental health professionals, that might mean conducting evaluations or writing affidavits. For educators, it might mean recognizing trauma in students and making sure that they get the support that they need. For employers, it might mean providing a workplace where employees feel safe enough to share their concerns. And for anyone, regardless of profession, it can mean standing up for humane policies, challenging harmful narratives, and ensuring that those living in fear know that they're not alone. Weingarten also talked about hope, not as an abstract feeling, but as something that we do. Hope, she argues, is a shared responsibility, not an individual burden. So when someone's suffering is not solely their job to remain hopeful, it is up to the community to do hope with them. In the context of immigration trauma, this means standing with families who are living in fear and offering them tangible support and ensuring that they know that they're not alone. When fear takes over, even the smallest acts of compassion can be powerful. It might look like checking in on a neighbor who hasn't been outside in days, or offering a ride to someone who's afraid to drive, sharing information about legal rights, or speaking up for dignity and safety in your local community. These gestures may seem simple, but in times like these, they're acts of courage and connection. We often think of systemic change as something massive, something that takes years, something beyond our reach. But every movement starts with individuals choosing to care, choosing to act, choosing to witness. Immigration evaluations are one way to take that action. And on this podcast, we'll continue exploring the many ways that mental health professionals can step up, not just as clinicians, but as witnesses, advocates, agents of change. Let me put it this way. If you're holding a powerful tool in your hands, but no one ever showed you how to use it, you may not even realize what it's capable of. Immigration evaluations are that tool. They're precise, impactful, and they're deeply needed. But like any tool, their power depends on how well they're used. When used thoughtfully and skillfully, a well-written immigration evaluation can mean the difference between a child growing up with both parents or losing one to detention or deportation. It can help an asylum seeker finally be believed. It can restore dignity to someone who's been treated as invisible. And the good news is that this is a tool you can learn how to use. You already have the clinical skills. What you need is guidance on how to channel those skills toward the specific high-impact work. If you're a mental health professional listening to this and feeling overwhelmed or helpless in the face of anti-immigrant rhetoric, you're not the only one. So many of us got into this field because we care deeply about human dignity and well-being. And it's painful to witness injustice and not know how to respond. But the truth is, we're not helpless, we're not powerless. We do have a tool, that can make a difference. And granted, I'm biased because this is what I do and this is what this podcast is about, but I will emphasize how immigration evaluations are one of the most direct and impactful ways we can show up for immigrant communities. You don't have to know all of immigration law. You don't have to have decades of experience. Basically, you just need the right training and a willingness to bear witness with intention and care. Through these evaluations, we help adjudicators see our clients as full human beings. We translate their fear, trauma, resilience into clinical language that the legal system can understand. So we bridge two worlds, and that bridge can keep families together. If you're already doing immigration evaluations, thank you. You are my hero. And if you're not, but you're ready to take that step, I'd be happy to help you. I have training and coaching programs that are specifically designed to teach clinicians how to do this work ethically, effectively, and with confidence. Whether you're brand new or looking to deepen your skills, there's a place for you in this work. And there are communities waiting for someone like you to stand beside them. Mine is not the only training. There are others. Do whatever suits you, but please get training. You don't have to change the entire system to change someone's life. You just need to know how to use the tool that you already have. Thank you for listening. If this conversation moved you, share it, talk about it. Let's keep making space for the voices that are too often drowned out by fear. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Before you go, don't forget to grab your free introductory guide to immigration evaluations. It's linked in the description box. And let's keep the conversation going. See you next time.